Good evening, I'm Thorburn Not Complaining, and I'm bringing you the 6 o'clock news from the field. We have a special report tonight about a hostile species that is taking over our region and is considered Canada's most wanted. The culprit has been identified as the emerald ash borer. As you can imagine, the emerald ash borer is a dangerous and uncontrollable insect. It has been described as a tree-destructing beetle with a metallic green coloring, who leaves D-shaped holes in barks of the tree and eats its leaves without limit. It is a small but ferocious creature, approximately 30 millimeters long. The female species can lay up to 100 eggs on the surface of the tree, and then when the larva goes into the tree once it's born. Once inside the tree, they eat away at the sap until the tree starves to death, as the tunnels they create block water from moving up the roots and into the trunk. To begin our in-depth analysis of the hostile species, I'll return your attention to my partner in the newsroom, Volhan.
Thank you for the introduction, Thor. Emerald ash borer, scientifically known as Agrilus planipennis, is a relatively new species in North America. Initially detected in Canada in 2002, but scientists believe it first arrived on our continent a decade earlier. The species has been detected in Ontario and Quebec, however runs the risk of extending itself to other regions in our country. We must stop its spread. Officials have stated that the emerald ash is a native of eastern Russia, Japan, Korea, and northern China. Thor, back to you.
The culprit is considered a national threat and has been categorized as an invasive species because of its recent arrival in the country and the many dangers it brings along with it. Officials have defined an invasive species as an alien species whose introduction is likely to cause human, economic, or environmental harm. We need to inform our listeners that an alien species is one that is not native to a particular ecosystem. We do not. I repeat, we do not mean alien like E.T. go home. This species must be controlled as soon as possible, as it has no competition and will eat what it wants in its new environment, resulting in a negative outcome for the local ecosystem. We hope through this special report our viewers can help in stopping the most wanted species. Volhan.
As stated earlier, the Canadian government issued a statement saying that it believes the emerald ash borer first came to the North American continent in the 1990s and was detected in Canada by 2002. It crossed the border without any resistance through crates and other similar shipments from the United States. This lack of human attention caused the spread of the species across oceans, shattering ecosystems on its destructive path in Quebec and Ontario. Human need to transport is also the reason it's spreading from region to region within communities in Ontario and Quebec. Again, we hope this new cast will inform our listeners about what they can do to help stop the spread of the emerald ash borer.
Investigators have outlined the damage of the species as follows. The emerald ash borer kills trees by feeding on the fluid transportation tissues in the tree. This hostile behavior disrupts the movement of nutrients in the tree and therefore lowering the ash tree population and raising the emerald ash borer population. Unfortunately, this invasion affects our local bird population among other living creatures in the area, such as aquatic and undersoil vegetation. Another noteworthy impact is economic. The Canadian Forest Service estimates the cost of treatment, removal, and replacement of the trees affected by the emerald ash borer in Canadian municipalities may reach $2 billion by the next 30 years. Volhan, I suppose the question is, what can be done?
Well, Thor, you have to understand that this insect is relatively new and a lot of time is being spent researching and monitoring the emerald ash borer. Since it is already out of its native Asia and in North America, spreading it is hard to control, but there are measures that have been taken. First, the government and environmental agencies have provided outreach and education for the common citizen, farmer, and business owner. We must all learn about an invasive species, how they affect us, and how to stop it from spreading. Second, the Invasive Species Center has been created. Their job is to coordinate research, data management, strategic planning, response actions, and rehabilitation efforts in the affected areas. Third, policies and regulations have been put in place to better supervise what comes into Canada and how it can be controlled. Finally, the government has funded programs where the invasive species can be physically removed, killed with pesticides, or reduced or eliminated through the use of other living organisms. Shayan?
Hold on. The question remains whether there is a better way of controlling this infestation. But let me tell you, the answer is not as simple as it requires the involvement of ordinary citizens like me and you to stop this hostile creature from entering our urban communities. Here are some ideas. If you're gardening, plant native species, and not exotic ones that have been imported. If you're camping, don't transport firewood. Buy it locally and leave what you don't use. If you're fishing, don't empty your bait bucket in or near water. That is against the law. If you're boating, wash your boat before you move it to another lake or river. When you're hiking, clean visible mud, plants, and seeds from your boots and other equipment. And finally, when traveling, don't take plants, plant parts, or seeds across the border.
We've clearly identified what Canada and Canadians could do to prevent the spread, but is there anything we can do to stop this or other invasive species from entering Canada? I guess the only way to stop it would be to stop the transport of goods and people, but we all know that it is impossible in today's society. We are all too dependent on imports from other countries to sustain our lifestyle, but we must be vigilant in doing all that has been outlined in our report to lessen the spread. Thor?
If you spot this invasive species, please contact the Canadian Food Inspection Agency toll-free at 1-800-442-2342 or the Ministry of Natural Resources toll-free at 1-800-667-1940. It is indeed Canada's most wanted. Back to you in the newsroom.
Thank you, Thor. That concludes our special Most Wanted report for this evening. Please stay tuned for a short video about the emerald ash borer.